Why? Because you're a tree of righteousness. That's what God says you are. And your roots go down deep into His love. And you suck from the resources, and it makes the tree produce fruit unto holiness. So that you're so grounded in God and so deep in Him that the tree that you are is His tree. And the same sap that's in the vine is in the branches. And the fruit that's coming off of you is holy and blameless and beautiful. And the whole world looks and says, wow, look at the fruit on that tree. What kind of tree is that? Jesus passed a fig tree one day. And he thought there was fruit on it, so he went up to it to get some food. And when he went up there, he found that there was no fruit on that tree. And he cursed it. And the tree withered. Know what that is? I asked God what that was. He said, easy. From a distance, everyone looks like a Christian. But you get up close, you find what kind of fruit's really on their tree. Come on. Jesus is expecting fruit in all seasons. Why? Because that sap doesn't dry out unless you don't stay hooked up to the source of life.
Yeah.
Come on. This is so good. I love this so much. That Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, might be able to comprehend. The word comprehend means to experience and to receive experientially, not just simply to understand intellectually. To comprehend the love of God, to comprehend with all the saints. Guess what that means? You're all the saints. You're no longer a sinner saved by grace. God has transformed you, taking you out of the kingdom of darkness, where you were a sinner saved by grace. I'm not saying that we don't miss it. But when we do, obedience needs to immediately follow, so that we can bear our fruit unto holiness. Come on, righteousness is a free gift from God, where God makes you right immediately. He translates you out of that into this, and now you're in the kingdom of light. You're no longer here, and you're not a fence straddler. There is no gray area. You're either for it or against Him. Get this thing on with God, because there's no compromise in this. Don't be lukewarm. Jesus will spit you out of His mouth. He said it. He said He wishes that you were cold or hot. Cold, He can turn you hot immediately. Hot, you can burn brighter. Lukewarm, you damage the world around you with your hypocrisy and with your lack of passion. This is convicting. Man, it keeps me straight every day. I realize that I'm not here for me. I'm here to serve Him. And this is all in the Bible. I'm not pulling stuff out of a hat unless Jesus wore one. Oh God, you're so good. You may know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge, that you may be filled with the fullness of God. Oh! God said that we can be filled with the fullness of God. That as we start to know and understand the love of God, you burn so bright that you've got to stay hooked up, because, see, I need water. I need another one. Yeah, there's one. We're going to just do that. That'll work. I'm going to galver you. This is a water bottle that's full. That's full. That's God. That's what the Christian life is supposed to be. You can't give away when you're there. You can't. See, you're supposed to be full with the fullness of God. You're supposed to be full of Christ in you, the Anointed One. You're supposed to look in the mirror and behold with unveiled face the glory of the Lord. When you look in a mirror, you're supposed to see glory. You're supposed to be being transformed back into that original image. How do we get there? The sanctification process of God, how we get there is moving from glory to glory. Not from bummer to bummer. The sanctification process of God is that we are moved from glory to glory, from faith to a greater level of faith, to a greater level of faith, to a greater level of faith. Chip's daughter Hannah tonight, she fell downstairs and she cut her knee. So that's why I took Pastor Chip out. We went downstairs and we prayed for her. And he's like, I think she's going to need stitches. It's just a little cut, but it's right on her knee. It's in a bad spot. It's in a bad spot. I'm like, I come upstairs because we prayed for her. All pain went away. We prayed for her and stuff. And I'm convicted in my heart because that should have closed up right now. No, the way it seems right to a man says that we got to get stitches. And reality says that if it doesn't get healed, it probably should. I'm not against doctors. God took me to Luke. I'm like, God, I need help. Help me. He said, well, go to Luke. I said, okay. So I turned to Luke. And the guards arrested Jesus. And his disciples said, should we draw a sword? And right after that, they cut off the dude's ear. And Jesus said, let it be so now. And he put his ear back on. And healed his ear. Oh my God. You got to help me see. You got to help me see like you see. See, little Hannah's knee should have went. I listen to people like David Hogan, and I listen to testimonies, and it just makes me cry. Where there's a little girl in the back of a truck, and they go out to preach Jesus at this place, and they're throwing rocks and hurling stones through the woods at David Hogan. He's a missionary in Mexico. Been there for 30 years. Testimonies that it's just ridiculous. Jesus stuff. And they hurl a rock and they rip a little girl's scalp completely off her head and kill her and lay her in the back of the truck. And he comes to America and he preaches and he says, the gospel that I preach just killed a young girl right next to me. Can you handle that? And he sits there and people are like, oh my, because we don't even know that. We're afraid someone might say no. Because we love our own life so much. You can't overcome the enemy except by the blood of the Lamb, the word of your testimony, and that you love not your own life unto death. And that's what he did. He did war constantly. So they picked that little girl's scalp up, they put her back on her head, they prayed for her, and it seals completely, and the little girl gets up. I have to have that. I have to have that same Christ in me, the hope of glory. The same dominance of what it means to be a man that walks with God. I have to have that same thing. I have to know that God wants to fill me with all of his fullness, and I just read it, and he said it, so he does. But the way he does